Hey everybody, hey, welcome back to the 53206 cast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meg.
And this is a podcast specifically designed to help engage us in the process of rethinking our inner city spaces, or maybe understanding them a little more.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I want to get into today. But first, before we do that, we should talk about We Got This.
Yeah. So We Got This community garden is over on...
You're familiar with it,
I'm
Meg?
familiar. Yeah, We Got This over on 9th and Ring is a wonderful community garden that we just love. And we had a little work day today.
Yeah, and, little work days. Meg, I remember there being, some little work days or a little work days like me and you.
Sure.
And dragging the kids and making them do work. But, we had a nice sized group. Sized group of kids. Nice sized group of adults. Mm-hmm. The perfect amount.
It was great. Yeah.
And Meg, it's kind of funny because you talk about We Got This on 9th and Ring, and that is the original location and kind of like the main hub. Mm-hmm. So when the kids come on Saturday mornings in the summer, that's where they go.
Yeah,
is
that's
9th and Ring.
Sign in and sign up.
But I'm starting to feel like it's not just 9th and Ring.
It's true.
It's 9th and Burleigh. It's 12th and Ring. It's 11th and Burleigh, or 12th, 11th and 12th and Burleigh.
12th and Concordia.
12th and Concordia.
9th, 12th and 8th.
Right. So it's spreading, which is good because I think that it's really important to get kids active and involved in their community.
Yeah. And
Meg, I wanted to talk today. I'm on Reddit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was really funny the other day. May came downstairs and you were sitting there, and I feel like we were all helping with dinner. And she was like, "Why doesn't Dad have to help with dinner?" And she's a typical 14-year-old.
Sure.
And she was like, "He's probably just sitting over there on Reddit." And I laughed so hard.
I wasn't. I was doing something productive.
And I thought too, come on, why aren't you helping with dinner?
Whatever. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I do remember thinking, hey, I am doing blah, blah, blah.
We all just thought you were on Reddit.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good.
And so, Meg, I'm on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I was probably 10 days ago from when we were recording this. The date doesn't totally matter, but, it's been a little while. And, when I think about We Got This and I think about what I saw on Reddit, I'm like, oh, it's just such an easy connection. So in Milwaukee, we've got, it might be 13 alder persons.
Okay.
It's something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if there's 9. There's not 20, I don't
Sure.
think. But, the city is split up into different districts, and each district has an alder person.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of handle, some of the littler, big things, but littler things that maybe, wouldn't go directly to the mayor, And so I'm assuming it's a very common way to organize a city government structure. Mm-hmm. It's great. I don't have any issue with it. Mm-hmm. But one of Milwaukee's alder people, it's a gentleman, so an alderman.
Okay.
Kind of put out a press release, and the press release was basically, and they do that from time to time. I see our older woman is it just is on a nice piece of letterhead, and it says this thing is happening, or let's try and do this, or
or Common Council wants their voice heard on this subject.
Yeah. That's how you found out about something going on at the library, and then you went and became internet famous at the library because of
they were shutting down one of our libraries.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to be sarcastic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was I advocated for my library.
Yeah. It's funny because when I Google your name, that's one of the things that comes up.
Really?
Is you making one public comment about the library.
Yeah. Well, I went to Common Council and was like, "Hey, we need this library," and there was other people that also said it, but I do feel like, I mean, they have a mobile library for the MLK library.
It's great.
Because I was one of the people that said something. So.
Yes, I'm 100% sure that's exactly why they have that.
Exactly why, yes.
Entirely possible that they were already going to do it, and we're like, here it is.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stick with that I helped.
Yeah, so one of the aldermen and women in Milwaukee, put out one of the press release things.
Yeah.
Basically just kind of saying, and I'm going to super paraphrase, but basically just kind of saying that we got to do better. Communities have to do better about picking up the trash around the neighborhood. And that, maybe we should be enforcing some of the laws in place, in particular laws that would discourage someone to litter. So the fine, if you're caught,
I would love to know like how much trash from littering actually takes. Like
I don't know.
I don't imagine that's a big percentage. Do you?
I have no idea. Okay. I've never thought about it and thought, oh, that's clearly something that's been dumped. That's littering.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Alderman Westmoreland did his press release.
Okay.
Basically saying like, hey, we need to do better. Hey.
So just so I'm understanding. So he's saying, hey, we need to do better. And he's saying that the police should take more action?
Well, that would be one of the things.
Okay.
In that would be one of the options available.
Okay.
To if you were trying to solve the problem of messy neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That would be one of the ways that you could approach.
And is that what he's suggesting?
That was, I believe that there was other tactics that maybe that could be tried, but that was one of the things that he in particular had said. Okay, yeah, let's enforce this.
Let's penalize people.
Law that we have, and it's not. That's one approach, and I kind of find that when somebody that is in an elevated position, has a thought or idea, there's always the two sides that are going to go back and forth. Some people will say, yes, we should definitely be pulling people over and fining them for littering. And then some people will say, no, we shouldn't be pulling people over for littering because it adds to a disadvantage, or maybe we're going to be targeting certain neighborhoods or, whatever some of maybe the negative effects would be of taking that as a strategy. And, I think about speeding in the neighborhood, and I probably say this a lot, but, I haven't really seen anybody pulled over for speeding. Meg, did you know that when I first started delivering pizzas, I got pulled over for speeding 3 times in the first week?
Wow.
I never got a ticket, I think because I was delivering pizzas. But,
How did you never get a ticket? I'm like mad that
I've never gotten a speeding ticket in my entire life.
I have gotten several speeding tickets before, and I'm mad that you haven't.
I don't normally speed. It's not really.
Yeah.
I'm never really in that big of a hurry.
Yeah.
And I like driving.
And it's funny you bring this up because I had picked up the kids, and I think we were just driving down Burleigh. No, we'd driven down Burleigh and we were on Wisconsin, and there was a speed trap, Wisconsin and like 35th or 40th.
Okay. That would be a new place to see a speed trap.
And that's what I said. And I was like, you guys, look at, I was like, whoa, I haven't seen this in the city, ever.
Yeah. I remember 2 years ago, they would set them up maybe on Capitol or Hampton.
Sure.
I remember had a couple. But I mean, I could point out lots of places that you could set up a speed in front of our house. Would be a great location. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if I like that, if I don't like that, if I think, okay, maybe we should just meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to give the illusion that we are enforcing this because we're now giving out warnings for littering. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. And I don't. I suppose I don't even necessarily have a strong opinion either way. But I do think, I see both sides.
So did the people on Reddit have an opinion?
Yes. At first, the opinion was very strongly that we should not do that.
We should not police people.
That police involvement would cause more problems than it would add to the solution.
Okay.
So it would be a net negative. And then, and I don't know Alderman Westmoreland. I've heard some really good things about him.
Okay.
Which would make me think that I would like him. And I'm sure if I talked to him, if we were hanging out, I don't know where we'd be hanging out, but if we were hanging out,
to the club.
well, I don't know. It's just like always where
I don't know where you hang out anywhere, so that's why.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
like,
know. I don't know. And I would assume
somewhere.
Alderman Westmoreland isn't hanging out at the club, but
yeah.
wherever we would find ourselves,
Sure,
to have an opportunity to chit chat.
Sure.
I'm sure that I would really like him.
Yeah.
Just from the little bit that I've heard, he seems like a real solid guy.
Okay.
So there was some of that backlash, and then it on Reddit it slowly shifted. So he put out definitely wasn't like an apology.
Okay.
But it was, I think, just kind of reiterating like, hey, I really like Milwaukee. I really don't like that it's in some areas, like the area that we live in, literally full of trash.
Yeah.
And then the comments on Reddit I noticed had shifted to, like we should actually do more to discourage people from doing this. And this podcast isn't about, this particular alderman. It's not really even about what he was suggesting or not suggesting that we do, but it's more so about, when I read that for the first time, Meg, I couldn't help but think we got this picked up 10,000 gallons of trash last year.
Yeah.
That was kind of where my mind was going is, the community, our community has noticed that this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I think about how to solve a problem, I'm not typically in favor of increased consequence.
Sure.
Because I would just know, like, when I worked in schools, as a teacher and an administrator, like, that wasn't really the way that you got change. Like, you couldn't consequent your way into changing, and call it culture in general.
Yeah.
And culture in this instance really just means, like, just the way that people are going about their daily life.
Yeah.
Like, if you want your school to be more welcoming, you can't get to a more welcoming environment by consequenting the kids who are not welcoming.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you overhype the positive, and you point out when people are doing the thing that you are seeking to have exist in your space, and you reward them. You either reward them, a lot of times in schools, like they have like these little tickets, like we have these things called Dodkey dollars.
Okay.
They always have like either like the school's name or like the mascot, and then some
kinda like a Shroot Buck.
A Shroot Buck. It's exactly like a Shroot Buck.
Okay.
100%. It's totally like Shroot Bucks.
But weren't like Shroot Bucks like really?
The exchange rate on Shroot Bucks there was some inefficiencies there. You had to have a lot of Shroot Bucks
it was
to
not
get.
Good.
It was like 400,000 Shroot Bucks got you like an hour personal time or something.
Yeah.
So, so when I think about like, well, how could we change our community?
Yeah.
To be more cognizant of the fact that anything that is, and I mean, it sounds like common sense, but I know, like, if I've got 4 Monster Energy drink cans in my truck, like, I want to get rid of those 4 Monster Energy drink cans, and it's probably easier to throw them out the window than it is to find a place that I can go put them. And so, how do you change people's actions in the long run to say, okay, well, I'm going to hold on to these and probably ideally recycle them, right? Like you should recycle a can, I think.
You should.
Still?
Yes,
okay.
You really should.
We're still on recycling. We still like recycling?
We are pro recycling, yes.
So, and I usually meet in the middle ground and I throw them in the bed of the truck and then I forget about them. But whatever. So, when I think about how do you change enough mindsets to eventually down the road change actions of adults. Mm-hmm. I think going around with a bucket and a trash picker is probably one of the most efficient ways that you can do that.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on this, actually.
Okay.
I think
I'd love to hear them.
Thanks. I think it has to do a lot with the self-esteem of a neighborhood.
Sure.
And when the self-esteem of a neighborhood is so low, I feel like it's like you don't want to you don't want to like make something messy that's messy. But
Right.
if something's already messy, you're like, well, I might as well just
Right.
keep it messy.
Like
And-
when I drive my truck down the alley and I notice that I have 4 Monster Energy drink cans
Yeah.
in my truck, and I drive by an area that has been dumped on,
yeah.
I am way more inclined to chuck them out the window in the pile because there's already a pile there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'll just like my
Yeah.
contribution isn't too much to the pile.
Yeah, and I think like when we think over like the self-esteem of a neighborhood, like the people who are in that neighborhood, they're seeing all the time what people think of their neighborhood and therefore what they should almost think of their neighborhood.
Sure.
And I almost think like that's the bigger thing to try to change, because when a neighborhood self-esteem is high, people don't want to mess up their nice neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think I'm, you know, I kind of laid out the two different sides of the arguments, just that I saw on Reddit.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know that one side is right and the other is wrong. I don't even know that I lean towards yes, we should do one side versus the other side. I almost think like in conjunction, sometimes those things work really well. So Meg, what you're laying out is basically, well, let's create more spaces that are clean,
Yeah.
free of debris,
Yeah.
and let's like really highlight and invest in those spaces and keep them.
And like bring more resources into the spaces that need more resources. I feel
Sure.
like it's the same as education. Do you want the education in the inner city to be better? Well, then you need to provide a little bit more resources.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, yeah, I think like we all need to pitch in, whether you live here or not. I think the areas that have low neighborhood self-esteem need more people to be there and to give their resources, because it's not, the inner city of Milwaukee happened on purpose. And
Sure.
I think we all, like everyone who's listening to this podcast, like probably agrees that we all have a part in that. And so we all need to have a part making it better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that, you know, I struggle to find, like, you know, from the time that we moved here in 2006, I would have a hard time like really pointing to some things where I'm like, okay, that was done intentionally to a group of people. I am almost thinking like just everything that happened in the 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s,
Yeah.
you know, all of the redlining practices, and even
But even, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, I feel like I'm still struggling with, and we talked about it last week, our friend's house that burned down, and just like how, like, it just seems that his house, his well-being just doesn't matter as much as if my house were to burn down, or if somebody's house on the east side burned down. And I feel like it just goes into this cycle of like, you know, Black lives do matter, but like they just like when housing safety is addressed in different areas of the city, it's pretty clear if somebody's living in 53206, their house is more likely to get to burn down. And like that doesn't
it is
seem
4
right.
times more likely than anywhere else in the city. Yeah.
So like that doesn't all of us are saying, yeah, that's not right. And why is that? Well, at some point, the housing over here hasn't been prioritized, and therefore the lives of people hasn't been prioritized. I feel like I'm going all over. I'm going to a lot of different places. So sorry.
So, I mean, I guess just to kind of go back to
Just wrap it up. We're done.
No, we don't have to
I'm
wrap-
going
we
too
don't have
many
to wrap
different
it.
places.
No, but I mean, and so, you know, when I think about we got this, and so you want kids who are going to turn into adults to be aware of, I mean, even the most base level thing that you can clean this up.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
an option to you. You know, you may, as a 25-year-old, you're not going to get paid a couple of bucks to do it, but you know, you can do this. And when you do this, it feels good.
It feels good. Yeah.
It feels good to have your community picked up.
Yeah.
Just like it feels good when your room is picked up. Even if
Yeah.
you hate cleaning up your room,
Yeah.
like when it's clean, you look around and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I kind of like this, right?
Well, it's not bad.
All the dishes are out of the sink. Like, yeah, it's actually kind of nice.
We got all the forks back. Specifically Dexter's room. Where are the forks?
So, I think, and, I'd love, if I ever did run in to Alderman Westmoreland, I would probably say, like, let's try to do more. Let's try to do more of this.
Yeah.
Let's organize groups of people, young people and adults, people that would be considering or approaching considering being an elder in the neighborhood. Like, let's connect some of those people together, and then let's go out and do this thing.
Yeah.
Because Meg, if the police department was paying officers overtime to go and write tickets for littering, very easily that amount of money would exceed the $35,000 that we got. This is likely going to give out to kids. And I just know the number of times that I heard a kid yell at another kid to pick up the thing that they just put on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I think that matters long term.
Yeah.
And that changes somebody's mindset, and mindsets are the things that drive our actions and our attitudes.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that, does physically result in the neighborhood being cleaner.
Yeah.
The neighborhood is always cleaner at 1:00 on a Saturday in the summer than it is at 8:00.
Yeah.
And that day on the Saturday.
And because of that, kids walking home from the garden feel really good about themselves for doing something great. Feel really good about themselves for bringing produce home that they grew. Feel really good about themselves because they're in a clean space. And I feel like it's like so many wins, which helps. It just helps it all. It helps the self-esteem of the neighborhood, which helps the self-esteem of a kid, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, so Meg, the board got together at our last board meeting and was talking about student leaders.
Yeah.
And that was a thing that we tried out last year. And essentially the idea was like, well, let's get little leaders involved to help build a culture in the program.
Yeah.
And, you always want to, if you're working, like I have a job, you have a job, we go do things to make money. Like if you do a good job at your job, then you get, in our particular fields, like you don't really get promoted because you work for yourself and I work for myself. But if I do a good job, the homeowner tells somebody else that we did a good job, and then we get another referral. Same with you, so-and-so company, you built their website. Yeah. They're telling other people about it. So we wanted to be real intentional about how we approached student leaders this year. And really develop a small group of maybe 10 student leaders that we knew, okay, we can 100% count on you to be instilling the culture that, makes sense to run, a program with 125 kids coming on a Saturday. So Meg, today was the official start of that small group of student leaders forming. And I mean, they're great kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt lucky that, it was really fun. I was, just cleaning up trash with them, and it was just, I feel like they just have funny stories, and they're just really good kids. So I feel lucky that we have such great kids that we get to work with. It's just, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. And so the thought would be then, we slowly add a couple more into the fold so that, by June 7th, we've got a fully functioning group of student leaders. Yeah. And then also leave some space for other kids who can aspire towards that. So, if you're a listener and you think, I could really get behind this student leader program. We talk about a lot of these different things on the podcast, and I know because people will write little notes when they donate, like, oh, this is for this. I just remember seeing the one for, more student leaders. Somebody had put that in the comment section, and that if you're listening and you're like, I want to give to that. Our budget for the whole program is set at $55,000 a year, or for this year, and we know 35 is going to go here, 10 is going to go probably to the adults, because we got to have adults there that we can count on being there. There would be nothing worse than 125 kids show up and we don't have adult slated group. Like, that would be messy, and we can't have that. So super important to have that dedicated team. And then the other smaller things like porta potties, taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff, boring stuff. But if you're a listener and you're like, yeah, I really want to get behind this specific thing, or I really would love to see this added, to the program, feel free to reach out at contact@wegotThisMKE.com. And if there is something that you're specifically like, yeah, I want you guys to have more student leaders. Like
you can easily donate on the website. That's like one of the options that you can give to. So
yeah, do you want to say the website and go from there?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right.
The website is wegotThisMKE.com, and if you click on the donate button, you can see all the different things that you can donate towards. The general fund that mainly goes to just having kids come on a Saturday. But then there's other things. I know somebody gave money so that we could have yoga in the garden. So that was really neat. And there's the porta potty, there's student leaders.
Love the porta potty fund.
There's soil compost. So, if you're like, hey, I really want, it to go towards this, you can do that.
Yeah. And Meg, I really want, and I'm really glad that the entire team at We Got This wants it to be this way, that, if you're somebody that is passionate about food insecurity, food deserts.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you care about food deserts, I really, hope that you and I, Meg, are communicating on the podcast that you're helping to stem some of the negative effects of the fact that you and I, Meg, live in a food desert. Even if you say, okay, I want to buy 100 bags of compost. Compost is like, I think the last time I looked, $3.75.
Is it really? I thought it was like
$1.19.
No,
it went up.
Yeah, that's.
Well, we're not in prime growing season, but we got to get some of it. So
yeah.
So it's let's call it $3.50 a bag.
Okay.
And if you're like, well, I want to donate 100 bags of compost, it's $350, and every 4x4 section of growing space gets 3 bags of compost. Like. You are literally helping to negate the negative effects of us living in a food desert. Yeah. And our community and our neighbors living in a food desert.
Well, and I think that a good plug would be we are working again with Weber's.
Yep.
Weber's Greenhouse, and to be totally honest, they provided most of our tomatoes, peppers. They provided a ton of our produce last year, and they really did it through, we put on their website, you can go to their website, which there's a link from our website on there. But you can buy I think it's either $20 or $25. You can buy a plant box, which just means like, it's just plants that we're going to go to Weber's and bring to our garden. So basically you're buying plants from Weber's. So the cool thing about this is that Weber's runs a greenhouse and they grow their food. Kids in the neighborhood grow. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job communicating right now. Sorry,
Weber's
podcast.
And Teens Grow Greens is like
connected.
It's very connected.
So Teens Grow Greens, the teens who work for Teens Grow Greens,
they grow the greens.
They grow everything. So all of our greens are like, and they're really good at growing really good produce too. So it's a wonderful partnership. So if you wanted to buy plants for We Got This, you can go to our website. At the top bar, it says, I think plant donation, and then that will link right to Weber's where you can buy plants. Yeah. For us.
Well, that was the plug, right?
That was the plug. Thank you. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Then I won't ask if you have one because you do.
I did.
And you did.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.